The Hockle and the Daisy, yeah. Sorry. Got myself distracted.
It does look like they don't change management area till after G. I don't know if maybe
You
that
can
was the
go ahead and
purpose
zoom
of
on
H.
out their
Okay.
their video on
just
Argus.
so you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did that pencil jump?
For watch handover should happen soon. We can probably just keep this view for them. I mean, we've been riding with it for a while. As long as they don't go too crazy, I think it'll be all right.
And that, oh, they're not listening. It's pretty far over to that other. We're just hanging here, right? The distance over to F is pretty far, 2.8 kilometers. So.
Okay, 2.8 kilometers. Okay.
Yeah. So they might want to.
How long do you think that would take them?
Half an odd kilometer. I'm math.
I know. At 4 a.m.
Let's see if the handy little chart here. 2.8 kilometers.
Real quick, to all of our viewers who've joined us on the 12 to 4 watch, we'd like to say thank you for joining us. Please continue to watch. Our relief has just arrived, so there'll be a short transition where things will probably be a little bit quiet.
I just don't know.
Okay.
I also feel the figure.
Give me the distance and I'll write it down.
About 2.8 kilometers.
2.8 kilometers, okay.
From where we are now to F. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I do have a better brain most days.
Okay.
Might be worth it to bust off a piece of that layered rock to the left there, if we have that time.
Hi everyone, this is Carrie, your Science Communication Fellow for the 4 to 8 watch. We're just getting settled, but looks like we have some fun rockfish habitat. Excited. We'll all be on quite soon. Thanks for your patience.
So in these layered rock units, some of the layers are harder than others. And if a hard layer is overlying a soft one, the soft one will erode out and it'll produce a sort of a little crevice underneath the hard layer, and the rockfish kind of like that habitat.
Hey Nav, I'm still waiting on human SBO.
Thanks for chiming in, Guy.
Oh, oh, you want to see that? You want to see the rope?
I don't hear them.
So the 4 to 8 shift is just getting acclimated, getting their bearings. During our watch shifts, you relay information to the person taking over your seat. And that's what's still going on, and people are just getting settled. So all fingers are crossed for a great dive. Sounds like you guys saw some cool things from 12 to 4. We're super excited.
Good morning, boys and girls.
Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And good morning, everyone else on 4 to 8.
Ooh, look at that crazy gelatinous thing is squeezing over.
We're going to stand by here for a few minutes, folks.
So,
We're just transferring our science intel from the last watch.
Copy that, thank you.
We're in some mixed substrate here, some soft and rocky. Really nice rockfish habitat. Those ledges Guy just called in, said get washed out eventually and become nice places for rockfish to hang out.
We're higher in the water column at around 340 meters. And it's currently around 44 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 6.9 degrees Celsius. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, I have been given my instructions at the handoff. So we would like to explore this rocky area as we slowly make our way over to GF2D. And welcome to everybody tuning in from all over the world. It's so great seeing people from Austria, Canada, Spain, France, Hong Kong, Italy, New Zealand, Trinidad and Tobago, Taiwan, Switzerland, Germany, the Netherlands, Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States. Thanks everybody for sitting with us.
Well, it's just after 4 a.m. California time, so we're adjusting.
All right, we're gonna hang here while we work out some logistics.
Are these burrowing cucumbers, maybe? Those white fluffy
Oh
things?
yeah, I think you're right.
I recognize this habitat.
We're getting into some. We're at 340 meters. It's a lot shallower than when we were on our last watch, and it's definitely changed.
We got rockfish. Are you ready for rockfish ID at 4 a.m., Danny?
Sorry.
We're hoping our scientist ashore, Tom Leidig, will help us out.
Count the rockfish respirations and see if that matches our oxygen concentration on Hertz O2 sensing.
All right.
Yeah, those are burrowing cucumbers with the white frilly stuff hanging out of the sediment.
Neat. What are they feeding on?
Plankton, detritus, whatever. Can you imagine just being those random eaters, just eat whatever? There's a little rockfish tucked under there, under that ledge.
Oh, yeah,
see his
I
lip.
see it. He's got one fin sticking out.
Yeah. We see you.
Sea stars, brachiopods, those white mollusks in the mud.
I wonder if he has any idea how many people are looking at him right now.
Are you feeling self-conscious, rockfish?
Yeah. I think he's trying to hide.
So I'm getting some help that is a split-nosed rockfish.
The characteristics say big eyes and split nose.
Check, check.
There are so many species of rockfish, and there's such unique, subtle differences between them.
And there's his friend hiding on the corner.
Whoa. It looks like a larval flatfish. You see that?
I did not.
Right there. Oh.
And are rockfish a sport fish?
It depends.
Some species are in some areas, but yeah, recreational fishers do get rockfish. They can also be commercially fished.
There are groundfish protection, rockfish conservation areas on the West Coast where the Pacific Fisheries Management Council has closed certain areas for rockfish, and there have been some modifications. I'm not sure entirely where they are right this second, but
What do they call rockfish in the store? They call it snapper or cod or what?
snapper, cod.
Well, that's another cool application of eDNA. A lot of students I've worked with have done projects ground truthing fish in fish markets. So by just taking a small sample on the surface of fish, they can say, hey, wait a minute, that is actually a rockfish.
I read about that.
Yeah, it was a
Pretty interesting project.
Very eye-opening project. It happened right in New York City by some university students.
Wow.
And do all rockfish have the spines? Is that a
Yeah, I'm
characteristic?
fairly sure the whole Sebastes family, they are typically characterized with some big eyes, this fusiform shape, kind of bigger in the front, nice fan tail. And pretty sure they all have tough spines. I'm not entirely sure about that, but hang out near rocks. That's their real characteristic. They like to be near rocky habitat. And they might be above rocky habitat. They might be in the midwater. And then some like to be right next to rocks physically. There's some species that get to be pretty old, like 200 years. And apparently as they get older, they become more fecund, able to make more rockfish as they get older, which is one of the goals around marine protected areas, state marine protected areas and conservation areas, to keep those rockfish there as long as possible so they can reproduce more. And then more rockfish spill out, making it a bit more sustainable.
Sure. On Argus. Okay.
I like its pectoral fins. I don't know. He just seems so relaxed in his posture.
I'm going to take a couple hours off, and I'll see you guys in a bit.
Have a nice nap, Guy.
Thanks, Guy.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for getting us here. Guy Cochran is with the USGS and has really been helping support our sanctuaries with our mapping and targeting research sites for doing benthic explorations. And we map with a process called multi-beam that sends down sound waves and measures the return rate of those sound waves. That's how we get pictures of the seafloor, targeting if it's soft or if it's hard, or if it's steep.
Guy's expertise is in helping us determine turning those seafloor maps into habitat maps. So his expertise is in seafloor habitat. Not that many people have his set of expertise, so we're so lucky to have him on board.
I think that's a hint to all of you younger students. This could be a great place to focus your academics.
Is that a side effect of towing?
Sounds like there's a bit of a need.
For so long?
Make recovery challenging.
Okay.
And Danny, or Jenny, I know we're going, you know, throughout this transect to new habitat, new areas, but why did this transect go through such a huge elevation change?
I'm not entirely certain. That's Jan set these up, and I'm not sure I can answer that correctly, so I'm going to pass on that for now. Danny just stepped out for a minute, but when she gets back, we can chat. She'll have a lot more information on that. I think it's part of the whole survey area of these essential fish habitats that are under consideration right now for either opening or closing, and that goes into some shallowish habitat too, which is a need for understanding better, so we can provide some information about what species are here. That's my thoughts, but I think
Sure.
Jan and Danny could. Yeah, she could better advertise.
Can zoom in on that guy if you want, Wayne.
Okay.
Getting ready to go.
We got
here.
time.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Oh, she'll be right back.
Oh, he wants a close-up. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Did you get the 5-second download from Greg?
I did.
Okay, so we're good to go.
Okay. I'm good to go too. So what we would like to do is we would like to explore this feature here in the area on the HYPACK map that in the red and orange habitat. We'd like to work our way over to 2D, but we can explore this rocky feature, so we might want to go up and down a few contours.
Awesome.
Check that out. And we have about an hour or so to explore, and then we're going to make our way to the next area.
Which 2Ds to the, so that's the, okay, right
To the south. Yeah.
To the south. And you want to head that general direction?
Head that general direction, yes, please.
Copy, copy. Here we go, like a herd of turtles.
Okay, while we do that, let's do introductions so I can make sure I get the level set properly for where you have your headsets adjusted at the moment, and that way we won't be blowing each other out with loud and soft people that we can't hear.
Of course, Wayne. So this is Carrie Ropel. I'm the Science Communication Fellow on the 4 to 8 watch.
I'm Wayne, lead video engineer.
This is Antonella Wilby, Argus pilot.
I'm Dan, pilot.
Kyle Saunders, navigational engineer.
Hi, I'm Danny Lipsky. I am the watch lead.
Jenny Stock, scientist.
Taylor Ann Smith, and I am the Ocean Sciences intern. And the data logger.
Okay.
Give Taylor Ann full gain.
Yeah, we need to
Yeah, I'm a
bump her
soft
up a little
talker.
bit.
I think it's because she's so far back there in that corner, I can barely hear her.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that one more time.
I'm Taylor Ann, the Ocean Sciences intern and the data logger.
That sounds much better. Thank you
It
very much.
does, thank you.
All right, so this is Danny, and the last watch gave us a download right at the end of our watch. What was that? 8 hours ago. We were in the middle of a tow getting to some new habitat, so they got us here, and the last watch has done some exploring and some transects, and so we are exploring this area. We have a combination of objectives today. We're going to do a little bit of exploring right now, and we are going to then try and move into some different areas and do some transects. So we will be possibly switching up our modes today, moving to some different areas, so we'll see what we can get done in the next 4 hours.
So Danny, when you were changing over, I was just curious if you had any thoughts on why this transect went from such a deep area through a more shallow or relatively more shallow area.
Well, we moved quite a distance. That tow was about 4 kilometers, so that's pretty far away. So it's really coming up the slope. The seafloor slope comes up as we get inshore. So we've come up into some shallower area, and the reason we're exploring both shallow and deeper areas is on this part of our cruise, we are looking at some different areas. We were looking in a deeper area that was outside any management zone. Now we have moved into looking at some places where there are some fishing management regulations in place, and so we want to cover some of those. So we're covering 3 different areas: no regulation, some changing regulation, and some existing regulations. That's why we're covering some large areas.
Thank you, that's really helpful context.
Danny, I think these are Rathbanaster sea stars.
Oh yeah, the big sea stars.
With the lots of legs. Rathbanaster californicus.
Well, will our goal be to perform a census at a standard height and transact, or will we just be exploring?
Right now we are just exploring, but we, when we get to a different area, we will probably want to do some transects.
Copy that.
I always think it's helpful to just remind ourselves where we are and the significance of this area. Jenny, do you mind giving us a summary of Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary?
Sure. So we are in the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, which is part of the National Marine Sanctuary System, which is part of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And we are in an area that was added to the sanctuary in 2015. Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary used to be Gulf of the Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, and it was down in the Bay Area between Marin County and up to Bodega Head, which is the southern part of Sonoma County on the California coast. And
I see some marine debris. I saw a bottle up there.
ooh. The sanctuary was expanded in 2015 with a lot of public input, and a lot of the public basically requested it. They said they wanted to see the sanctuary expanded because one of our main prohibitions is oil and gas exploration, and our Sonoma coast just values the pristine beaches, pristine habitats that we have, and really wanted to see those protections extended up the coast. And so NOAA ran a public comment process, and EIS, and another public comment process, and we expanded in 2015.
Let's take a look at some of these fish that were, rockfish that were coming by. If we get a zoom on some rockfish.
Copy.
We happen to be in some relatively shallow habitat compared to some deeper stuff we were looking at yesterday. But this is a very productive upwelling zone where a lot of cold water comes up from the deep up to the surface waters and helps nourish the surface waters to support nutrients for phytoplankton blooms, which supports the food web. And the California current helps transport those nutrients down to the Gulf region and the Cordell Bank region. So it's all very interconnected. The waters that upwell, transport nutrients, and all part of that Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary.
Thank you. We can zoom out.
Okay, coming by.
And we have changed depth enough since our last watch that the organisms and communities have completely changed. So these deep sea communities are really affected by the depth, and they tend to be, there tends to be a depth zonation to what we see. So we are onto different species, and taking me a minute to get up to speed on what we're looking at here, but we'll talk about some rockfish.
And we'll continue to cross our fingers for flapjack octopus. My fingers are crossed.
Okay, I'm wondering if we could maybe head upslope a little bit, up maybe 2 contour lines or so, and maybe we'll try and do like a little bit of a zigzag to get us to 2D, just to see if there's anything more interesting habitat up above us.
Upslope, copy, copy.
And just speaking about plankton and its role in this ecosystem, so there's 2 types of plankton: phytoplankton, which is plant-based plankton, and zooplankton, which is animal plankton. Many types of animals go through a planktonic stage in their life cycle, but phytoplankton, being this plant plankton, provides us with a lot of our world's oxygen. So not only is it a food source for animals, but it literally helps us to breathe. Another great benefit of protecting our oceans. I was curious, just because I'm not from the West Coast, are harmful algal blooms, HABs, an issue in this area?
Yeah, they definitely are. It's something that we help to monitor in one of our other research programs that we do for Greater Farallones and Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuaries. And we do that to support the California Department of Public Health's monitoring of that. And they are looking at that to make recommendations about shellfish consumption for the public. And we have had some harmful algal bloom events in the past few years, and one of the reasons why it's really concerning for the sanctuary is they can be really they can impact the marine mammal populations. So we tend to see California sea lions get really sick when there is a harmful algal bloom event, and we usually have domoic acid
Tilting camera
events
up.
here on the West Coast. So that is something that we are concerned about and helping to monitor.
Very important work. Thanks for that that info.
Are we waiting for the ship?
No, we're continuing to move. I was just getting back in the box there.
Okay.
Optimal eye in the sky. I've got my training wheels on tonight, so it's going to be a bit slower. 50%.
Do you need some coffee?
Oh, I've got coffee, a double scoop.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
Let's see if we can zoom in on those sea stars while we're waiting.
Copy that. I noticed that the lasers are turned off. Is that for transect reasons or?
Oh no, that should be on. Thank you for catching that.
Scaling lasers engaged.
And are rockfish fairly solitary, or do they ever form schools?
It depends on the species. So a lot of these benthic species that we are going to come across today we'll just see in ones and twos. Pretty solitary, but some of the water column species like blue rockfish is something that we see at Cordell Bank.
Coming. You're on it.
Widow rockfish, they will be found in these big groups, kind of in the water column. It depends on the species.
Okay, cool.
No worries.
All right. Let's see what we can find up close. Yeah. Okay, moving on.
Miles, we have
wide.
a question from one of our viewers. In all your time here, have you guys on AV Nautilus ever come across an unrecorded shipwreck?
Not not with the vehicle. I think we have, I've not personally, but I think we have found some in multi-beam.
And Jenny, are there famous shipwrecks in the Greater Farallones or Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuaries?
I don't think we have any in Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary. And Farallones, they have a few down in the southern part of the sanctuary. I'm not a big maritime history buff, so I'm not so good on the history part. That's something I can look up a little bit and bring back later. I know there's a ship called the Lukenbach that is sunk, and I don't even know what the origin of that ship was, but it was leaking oil for a while, and Beach Watch volunteers were actually kind of the first to find out. Well, they made the connection. They were collecting oil samples on the beaches, and because they can collect oil samples, they were able to be fingerprinted back to that ship. And they went back to that ship and found it was burping oil. And with a multi-agency partnership, they went into that ship and buttoned it up to stop burping oil. I think it was the U.S. Lukenbach. And then there was the Puerto Rican, which is a ship that was in an accident and huge oil spill. And there's a lot of historic shipwrecks along the coast before we had such great navigational tools. I think over 100 along the coast, around Point Reyes specifically. The USS Independence is another ship. So there's quite a few in the Farallones. I don't know about up here, though, in the northern part of the sanctuary.
So interesting, and I love how, it was community scientists, these beach watchers, that were able to stop this source of pollution from unnecessary source of pollution, obviously, as well.
The Nautilus was part of an expedition to explore the USS Independence in the Farallones a couple years ago. It was an amazing expedition because they had Jim Delgado on board, who is an incredible historian, and it was really fun. I was at home watching, and I remember just being completely enraptured because he was so excited about every little detail of the ship, and it was really cool.
Very neat. Yeah, and just a reminder that, EV Nautilus also sometimes does work around archaeology, and Herc is able to bring up appropriate artifacts, just as Herc's able to bring up biological samples.
Reading up about the USS Independence. This was a ship that, before we had a National Marine Sanctuary, it was a naval ship. It was one of the 90 vessels assembled as a target fleet for the Bikini Atoll atomic bomb tests. And when it returned to the United States, they carried it out past the shelf and they dumped it in 1951. So that was before we had a National Marine Sanctuary.
And was this dumping practice fairly common before the National Marine Sanctuary designation?
I don't know. I guess technically it's in the Monterey Bay Sanctuary, but in the northern, the Greater Farallones manages that northern area of the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty wild to think that, not so long ago, our waters were seen as this dumping ground, and just the cultural and shift to, you know, reminding ourselves the great value of these waters. It's encouraging to me, even though I know we have some ways to go.
Yeah. There is a beach that's north of us. So we're right off the northern Sonoma coast right now. And north of us is an area called Mendocino and Fort Bragg along the coast. And there's a famous beach called Glass Beach. And it's just a beach that's got so much beach glass on it, but it also has a ton of trash. And they used to use it as a trash dumping site historically. And until eventually we all realized you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they stopped it as a dump site, but the beach glass remains, and it's just the sand is basically beach glass. It's a pretty neat beach to go to.
Wow.
And a good reminder that we can learn
Mm-hmm.
from our past and mistakes and come up with better solutions for dealing with our waste and problems.
Definitely, and I think all of our, you know, conversation right now around marine debris and microplastics is showing that people do want to link, you know, connect their behaviors to the health of our waterways, and you know, collectively we can make changes that are at scale to solve some of these issues around plastics in our ocean. In Hudson River Park, where I work in New York City, we launched a program called Park Over Plastic, and it was really exciting. So many of our tenants within the park were very much game to no longer sell single-use plastic, so no longer selling plastic water bottles.
Take a zoom on that fish below the lasers if we're waiting.
Plastic utensils and such, and it was just great not only to have community support, but to have, you know, business support around single-use plastics reduction.
That's great.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. Let's see. What are you? Yeah. Here we go. Okay, coming wide.
Yeah, getting closer.
Well, this habitat we're looking at is, we would call this rubble. It looks like there's some hard substrate underneath, but that it's quite loose, and maybe some has fallen from hard substrate above. So it's pretty unstable substrate, so that's why we're not seeing a lot of corals and sponges on it. But good habitat for some of these other species. Let's get a good look at that rockfish that's coming up to the lasers, and there's one above it too.
Okay.
Okay. There we go.